So,
Live.
so, hi guys, this is the 8 to 9 o'clock panel, and this is Noelle, Holden, and Sharon Bairden, and this is bloggers turned authors. So Noelle Holden is an award-winning blogger at timebookjunkie.co.uk. She's a PR and social media manager for Bookature, a leading digital publisher in the UK, and a regular reviewer of the True Crime a Microphone podcast. She worked as a senior probation officer for 18 years, covering a variety of cases, and she is the author of the DC Maggie Jameson books. And then Sharon Bairden. By day, Sharon is a service manager in a small independent advocacy service and has a passion for human rights. By night, she has a passion for all things criminal. She blogs about books like Chapter in My Life and is delighted to be crossing over to the other side of the fence to become a writer, which is now being released and it's called Sins of the Father. So enjoy, guys. I'm going.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hello. Hello, Noelle. How
Hello.
nice to see you.
I know.
I mean, I know this is lovely. Although I miss you, miss everybody, but it is nice to see you. It's nice to catch up with you again. And thanks very much, Lindsay, for inviting
Yes.
both of us along today. You've been very brave, Lindsay. You've left us without any adult supervision tonight. So who knows what will happen. So this is completely unscripted, unplanned, and Noelle and I are just going to go with the flow tonight. And I do see some comments coming in, so I'm just going to.
Yeah.
Good evening, everyone. It's really nice to see you all.
Yeah. Can you hear me okay, or am I like crackly?
No, you're perfect. I can hear you perfectly.
Well, I know that.
Oh yeah, obviously you're perfect. We're twins. We're both perfect.
I know.
No, you're absolutely fine. No crackles. Your internet connection in the village must be good tonight.
Yeah. Well, I think everybody thinks lockdown is over, so they've all buggered off somewhere. Fingers crossed it stays like that. Although I'm wearing my headphones because the neighbors have been a little loud over the weekend so far. So I thought, even though I have to suffer with it, I'm not going to make everybody else suffer with it.
Okay. It would have been interesting to hear your neighbours, though.
Oh, no, it wouldn't.
Good to come up with some plots. But Lindsay gave us a lovely introduction there. I suppose we laughingly call each other the twinnies.
Yeah.
I suppose Alan Jones had seen it put on your Facebook the other day, says you two separated at birth. I mean, obviously, apart from the accent, we look exactly the same. So
yes, absolutely.
So I just thought for folk that don't really know us, let's chat a wee bit about how we met and you know how this all came about from those quiet little reviewers in the corner to those quiet little authors in their rooms. So
yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, I kind of came back into the bookish scene in probably about 2015, and I was looking on Facebook, and of course, I came across a book group that you were in, and we sort of just kind of started chatting online, didn't we? And then we found out that our books, because originally we just called each other book twinnies, didn't we? We were reading the same books almost at the same time. But of course, then book twinnies turned into twinnies because we found that there were so many similarities between us that, we obviously were separated birth. And, my grandmother is from Glasgow. So I'm sure if we dug deep enough, we could be related. It is possible.
Can you imagine that family tree, Noelle? Can you imagine if we dug back deep enough and we did find that connection, only it was a criminal connection?
Could be. I don't know, because my grandfather actually, he's Irish. My gran was Scottish, and my grandfather went AWOL from, I think it was the army, to Glasgow and married my gran. So they stayed there for a little while before they went back to Ireland. So there is some sort of criminal element, I think.
I'm going to get the old family photographs out tonight and see if I can see anything. I just noticed Joe has asked what are we drinking tonight, and this just shows what rock and roll lifestyles we live. I'm drinking a cup of tea.
Oh,
In
nice
my
promo. Nice promo.
yeah. Oh, where am I going?
I,
There we go.
I'm just drinking a half a cappuccino, but I've got a refill just in case.
Okay. Yeah, so we're very, very rock and roll, tea and coffee, I'm afraid. So yeah, so it's really weird to believe that was like 6 years ago, and that was all through a Facebook group and just those chats online, liking the same books, same authors, you recommending, authors to me recommending authors to you. And then obviously you live down south, I live over the border, and we'd never met. And I always remember we were both going to Harrogate. I think, was it your second time and it was my first time?
2017.
Yeah, and that was my first time going, and that was your first time going, or second time.
Yeah.
And we said, right, okay, we'll say hello to each other. And I remember being so nervous because I was like,
I know, me too.
Like, we're like these really like online, everybody's like ho ho ho, very happy online, and I think I'm really quiet and I'm quite shy, and I'm like, oh my god, what if we look at each other and go, oh, I hate her,
I
or
know.
she hates me.
I felt the exact same way. I think you do. I mean, I'm generally the same in real life as I am on social media, except in real life, I kind of don't show that to people until I know them a bit. So,
Yeah.
I think you kind of knew what you'd expect from me. But like you say, it was like, I thought there was going to be this awkwardness when we first met, but there wasn't at all. It was squeals and screams
I
and it
know.
was fantastic. So, we
Yeah.
definitely had that connection. And that's what I think is great about social media, for all the stuff and the negativity that you can find across it. I've met some amazing people and made some, lifelong friends
Yeah,
through it. So
absolutely. Through the book community, people always say to you, oh, reading books are boring. You go to a book festival. What do you do at a book festival? Sit around a corner, or sit around a tree and read or something. And people don't actually realize like how supportive that community is and how friendly it is. I always say to folk, a book festival, you can go to a book festival and be there, go to your events and be there on your own, and nobody will look at you like you're a weirdo. Or you can go and be the life and soul of the party, or somewhere in between. Everybody's just accepted for who they are. So yeah, I've just met so many friends just through it. And I suppose maybe for both of us, it was a wee bit of a sort of beginning of our journey, although you had probably started writing before I had, but for me it was a bit of the beginning of my journey for writing.
yeah. So tell us about that journey then.
Well, you obviously nagged me and made me go to crime and publishment. I think for me, I've spoke about it before. There was always a sort of a desire to write, but always thinking writers were a different breed of people. They weren't real people like you and I. And I think going along to the book festivals and getting to know people who wrote, that getting to know other bloggers, readers, I think it just sort of built up my confidence, where you sort of begin to think, yeah, people are just ordinary people, the same sort of life and issues and problems that we've all got going on. And then obviously you didn't nag and force me to go to crime and publishment. I had thought about it, and I had been to a few sort of writing workshops and classes up here, but you really sold crime and publishment to me. So I went there with an idea and, a few thousand words written, and come away absolutely buzzing. And the rest is kind of history, isn't it? So what about yourself?
It was like a year ago today or yesterday that you signed your contract.
It was a year ago today. It was announced because that came up in my Facebook memories, and I'm like, my God, like what a year!
Yeah.
I remember that, and I remember thinking because lockdown happened, then my contract was announced, and I'm going, it's fine. November, my book launch will be absolutely fine. This will all be done and dusted by November, and hey, here we are, still in our houses, but
Yes, yes, but there's always the next book, you know. I still plan on interviewing you live at Waterstones.
definitely you are October. You're up here in October, definitely for sure. So
Excellent.
so what about you then? Your
Um,
journey?
Kind of similar to yours. I kind of had an idea brewing in my head in probably around the time that I met you. That it was just before that, I think, that I had attended Crime and Publishment, and um, I went with my prologue. I didn't have anything else written, and I was really nervous because it was a kind of multi-agency type crime book with various different things. And although there's a police officer in it, she's mainly introduced into that. This was really my debut, Dead Inside. Um, was mainly Lucy's story, and it was a story of domestic violence and stuff, which I had experienced. So it was quite a personal story to me, and the prologue really hits hard. So when I went there, I showed it to Graham Smith and Michael Malone, who both kind of run it, and they were both like, "Wow, that's really powerful. You need to write this book." So, like you, come away buzzing on the Monday. That was March, I don't know, March 3rd or something. It was at the beginning of March, um, and uh, and I then sat down every day and wrote for an hour a day. And by May, so actually I had finished probably the first draft when I went to Harrogate in 2017. Um, and then I just put it in a drawer. I thought, okay, I wrote the book. Yay me. And that was going to be it. Put it in a drawer, went back to blogging, reading and reviewing and doing blog tours. I had just left probation. So I had started at Bookouture, and that was still very new to me. So I was focusing on that. And then in October of that year, I thought, okay, I'm gonna look at it again and go through it and edit it, put kind of whipped it into shape, sent it off to a professional editor. And then I attended Crime and Publishment in 2018 and pitched to Karen Sullivan. And when I pitched to her, she gave me one of those red cards, the famous cards that you get, and said, "Yeah, send me your manuscript," which gave me a massive buzz because I thought, "Oh my God, she actually wants to read it." But then you kind of, I think, in the back of your mind, you think, "Oh, maybe she's just being nice," and I bet everybody gets a card and all that kind of stuff. So I still went away on a high, but I kind of thought, okay, well, I'll submit to other places as well. And I went to Harrogate again. And Harrogate's like the common link. Harrogate in
Yeah,
2018, and through Bookouture, one of the editors there introduced me to my then editor, Finn Cotton, at Killer Reads, and kind of nudged me to pitch my book. So I pitched the book on the Saturday. He called me on no, he emailed me on the Monday and said, "Can you send the whole manuscript?" So I did, and in between, I was still submitting to agents and publishers. And on the following Monday, he offered me a deal, and then two more deals came through. So I kind of was like, "Oh my God," because you hear stories of people subbing for years and years and years. And I know
mhm.
I'm probably, and you as well, like the rarity in terms of you submit and you get your book deal. But I was still really nervous and kind of held out till August before I signed with Killer Reads. And I'm glad I did because my editor at the time, Finn, had a real vision for the book, and he kind of shaped it into a bit more of the police procedural side of things. So yeah, and now I've got the fourth book coming out in April. Fifth book is written and coming out in November. And I'm going to be writing a psychological thriller between now and then.
Hmm, excellent. You're a
Yeah,
writing machine, Noelle. An absolute writing machine.
I love it. It's fun.
I know. And do you think has lockdown changed writing the process or your feeling about writing? You know, some folk have said, "Oh, this is great. You know, we've got all this extra time for folk that were being furloughed." Other folk have said that lockdown really sort of stifled their creativity in that.
For me, I kind of have both. Like when I was writing and finishing off book four, I was in the zone. I just kept writing and it was fine. And before that, like during the beginning of the first lockdown, I had Dead Wrong come out. No, yes, I had Dead Wrong come out in March of last year, which kind of sucked because it was lockdown and people, it was actually just near the beginning of lockdown as well. So
Yeah,
my publisher was like up in the air in terms of working from home. Then books couldn't come out. So that kind of got a bit stifled. And then Dead Perfect came out in the October, just before we went into the second lockdown. So it was just like, oh my God. And hopefully for the fourth one, we'll be coming out of lockdown. So, but writing wise, I've been a bit weird because I'm not gonna lie, I handed in book four beginning of January, or book five, the beginning of January. And I've kind of just taken a bit of a break. I wanted to kind of separate myself.
yeah,
I know I have book five edits coming at some point soon, and I've enjoyed kind of clearing the cobwebs because starting a new project, I needed to get as far away from the series as I possibly could. So
yeah.
the notebook's out and I'm writing notes and I've got four different psychological thriller ideas.
Right. Okay.
Two of them I'm working on actively with notes and stuff, but because it's different than a procedural, I think I have to spend more time plotting it because I mean, lots of credit to you because I am finding it difficult just containing everything in one nice little package, not realizing like I can't leave my cliffhanger endings because it's a standalone and it's driving me mad. So yeah.
I know, but I mine's obviously psychological thriller standalone, and I didn't plot at all. For book two, I tried to plot and wasn't very successful. For book three, which I don't know, I'm finding writing book three really, really difficult. And I don't think it's lockdown. Although because I don't normally work from home, I feel I don't have a separation between work and home at the moment. So when I was coming home from work before, I was coming into a different environment to write. Whereas, I'm like, I'm still, if I'm sitting at my computer, I feel as if I'm at work, sort of thing.
Yeah.
But the other thing is because obviously book one came out in November. Book two, I'm waiting on my edits coming back, and that's due out in October. And I don't know if it. I don't know if it. I know. I'm just like I just still keep on pinching myself. But I don't know if it's a nerve thing where I'm like I've got a sort of block that I can't. I keep on starting to write, and I've got about 40,000 words done. But I just keep on coming up against block after block. I thought, right, okay, I'll sit and I'll try to plot it out. And I've got two endings for it. I just keep on coming up against these blocks. So I don't know if it's an anxiety thing, waiting on book two coming out, because there's a bit of like, oh, everybody was really nice about book one. What if they're really horrible about book two?
Yeah, and that won't ever go away. I was the
No.
same, and I still am the same. And I think I struggled writing book three as well because book one was already in my head for ages, and you kind of have that time
Yeah.
because you don't have a deadline.
Yeah.
And when book one's finished, you're writing book two anyways. So those kind of go simultaneously. But book three, it was like a whole new, I had rough ideas of where I wanted things to go, but it wasn't until I was writing the second book in the series that I knew where book three would go. So when it came out, I was like, oh my God, are people going to like it? Is it, and the same with book four. I think that doesn't ever go away, or at least I don't
No.
think it will for me. I think that anxiety is there. So I can totally relate to what you're saying.
Yeah, and I think everybody I've spoke to has said, you know, whether they've wrote 2, 3 books or 33 books, everybody says exactly the same. You know, it's always there. See, Wendy Jones has asked, what would you say is the most important criteria for being a crime writer?
You go first.
Okay, you've obviously got to go out and murder people. You've got to commit heinous crimes and be a really horrible person. I find that helps a lot. No, obviously not. I was being facetious there. I think you've got to read the genre. You've got to enjoy, you've got to enjoy what you write. And you know, I was talking to a book group last night, and they were saying your book's very dark, and I said, yeah, but that's what I read. That's what I enjoy. That's what I like. I don't think I could go and write a rom-com or, you know, a historical romance because I don't read them, so I don't know.
Because I don't feel love.
I don't feel love, you know. I could write a romance, but they would all die hideously at the end of it, I'm afraid.
Yeah,
and not live happily ever after. So what about yourself?
Yeah, I kind of echo what you say. I think when you're to be a crime writer and stuff, you really first you have to know what subgenre you're going to write in. You know, I do police procedurals, so when I'm writing, I try to distance myself from other people's police procedurals, so I stick to and I keep my own voice. But I read a lot of crime fiction, and I kind of absorb techniques and stuff that I see that other people do without copying them, but kind of saying, "Oh, I really like how they, you know, do hooky endings to every chapter. I love that when I read it. So how about I try it when I'm writing?" And things like that. I think in order to be a crime writer, you really just have to love the genre. You know, there's no point in writing something that you don't like. And like you, I couldn't write rom-com. I don't mind reading it every now and again, but it's just I don't think I'm funny. I don't think I have that kind of happily ever after romance kind of. For me, like you, everyone would have to die at the end for it to be a happy ending for me.
Don't let this put folk off us. Honestly, we are really nice people. You just got all that dark stuff out on paper. Do you think since you started writing that you read differently?
Oh, definitely. And actually, I think that came from blogging. When I started blogging, I started paying more attention to the plot and the characters and how the book made me feel.
Yeah.
And then when I started writing, I kind of drew on that, but then also tried and started looking at structure and pace and, you know, twists and hooks and all those kind of things.
Yeah.
So, you know, I do find sometimes when I'm reading that I might be more critical as a reader because I write now, if that makes sense. Are you the same?
Yeah, definitely. But like you, I think it's also about, you know, it's about picking up those tips, as you say, not copying people, but saying, oh right, I like how they, you know, how they incorporate a flashback, or you know, they link, you know, they link two different points of view together. So I find it really fascinating the way different writers, you know, they have their own style. So I feel as if sometimes I read to learn.
Yes.
So I feel as if I read to enjoy. Obviously, you know, I'm picking up books that I enjoy and I want to read, but I feel as if I'm reading to learn all the time. And then sometimes when you do read something and you see an error that I think I wouldn't have known that was an error 5 years ago. Like with the head hopping thing, I remember, you know, you better read for me for Sins of the Father, and you like head hopping, and I'm like, Noelle, what's head hopping? You know, things that I wouldn't have known was an error, but
Yes.
as a reader, I would have been like, "Oh, there's something strange about this book. It's confusing me, and I don't know why."
Yeah.
So yeah, I just feel as if I read to learn now.
Yeah. And I think it's a constant learning process. You know, I'm always um, wanting to learn more. I still buy tons of books on writing. I don't think there's stuff that I don't think it's something I can ever say, "Oh, I've learned it all."
No,
But the other thing about it as well is that to remember that what works for someone else or what is good for someone else is not necessarily going to be good for me. So I just take the parts that work for me, you know, that and whether
yeah,
that's in writing or editing or, you know, even like you, I don't really plot my books. I take notes and I kind of write things down and sometimes a paragraph might come to me and I put that
yeah,
down, but I generally cannot. I tried. I just cannot sit down and plot a book out, you know, from the beginning to the end because that's just not how my brain works.
no.
And for some people, it's a nightmare. They kind of listen to my process and think, "Oh my God, how can you do that?" But it works
What's going
for
on in
me.
there?
Yeah, it's total
Yeah.
chaos in here.
Uh-huh. I know, and sometimes I feel really envious of people with their color coded post notes and
I
their
know, it looks so
spreadsheets,
good.
and yeah, and you know they put pictures up, and you're like, oh my god, that looks amazing, that looks so good, and then I try to do it, and I'm just like, the thoughts just keep on coming into your head that don't fit into that structure. And like you, I think I tend to, if something comes into my head, and quite often it's a line or a paragraph or something that one of my characters is going to say or going to do, that I think, oh, that's really important. I need to get that down. And I'll sit and I'll write, I'll get all that written down and I'll store it somewhere because I know I'll need to bring it in at some point. And yeah, so it works for us.
Yeah.
And I think for me, you know, throughout the last few years, you know, you go to writing groups, you go to writing classes, you read books, and you take all these notes. But I think I suddenly sort of learned, right, some of that is totally irrelevant to me. It's not going to work. So you've just got to take what works for you.
Yeah.
And you know, the best tip I would ever give anybody is do what works for you and don't get hung up about what everybody else is doing.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely. I mean, I write a series and I see all these people who have these like character Bibles and, you know, they have all their characters written out and all their, um, I don't do that. I have a little notebook where I write what they're doing, but everything's from memory. So sometimes
yeah,
I have to go back and kind of think, oh, what did I call Maggie's parents? Oh, I know I mentioned them in book 2, so I just Google Maggie's parents or, you know, search. And then I find their names and I'm like, oh, okay. Like I don't even know what they are
yeah.
now. So yeah, I'm probably like the worst author ever, but it works for me. It works for me. So
I'm currently looking at two flip chart sheets that I've got stuck in the wall in front of me, with people's names and sort of arrows pointing to remind me. But this is for book 3 to remind me who's connected to who to prevent me having to do all those searches. But yeah,
oh, I have
it
that.
works.
I have that too. Like in my notebook, for each book, I have all the main characters in the notebook of that because every book I write has a little draft notebook. So I've got all the characters, and you know, I'll write like this is a killer, and he or she knows so and so like this way. So they're all there. Um, but for like random characters who I just kind of name and mention, I might put their names in a book, but that means digging out out of my drawer all the little boxes and stuff, and I think, "Oh, I can't be bothered." So I just search on my Kindle. So bad. Bad
Oh, I
author.
know. We are bad authors. We are very bad authors. Um, Book covers. Do you
Yeah.
judge a book by a cover? Definitely.
Yeah, I've got a
Right, don't
story.
mess about or anything. Do not mess about there, Noelle.
I've got a story for you. I used to. I used to be very much a cover snob. Um, I was very much drawn to covers, and then read the blurb before I buy the book. And I've often bought a book just on the cover alone. I don't even know what the book's about, but I think, wow, I love that cover. Until, and I don't think Alan Jones is here.
Oh,
This is so bad. I mean, guys, I love Alan Jones. Like me, Sharon, and Alan, partners in crime, fantastic. But when I first met Alan, I can't even tell this story. When I first met Alan, he asked me to read his book. Sorry, Blue Wicked, and it is a fabulous book. So please go out and buy it. But he was like then asking me questions about the book afterwards, and I said, okay, well, if you want honest feedback, I'll give you honest feedback. And I was like, the book was great. I love the stories. I love the character. I love the darkness of it. There are, if you have a problem reading about animal cruelty, then you might struggle with the book, but it is actually integral to the story. And at the time I read
and
the book.
It's not that. It's only that those first few pages.
Yeah, the first few pages.
You're like,
yeah. And at the time I read it, my cat had died, so I was just like, oh my God, I'm reading this book. Oh, that's disgusting. But anyways, it was only the first few pages. But then he asked me about the cover, and the cover was a blue bottle knocked over with liquid coming out, red background, I think. I think that's what it was. And I was like, that cover, really doesn't look professional and yada, yada, yada. I wasn't really drawn to it. And if I'm honest, if I'd seen it on a shelf, I probably would have passed it over. And he said to me, oh, my daughter painted that. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. So, but I was honest. I wasn't drawn to the cover, but I love you, Alan.
And she loves your book. She just doesn't like that cover.
Yeah. Do you judge a book by its cover?
Not as much as I used to. I think like that, and that's probably through blogging. There's been a lot of books where I've got a book where I think, if I'd seen that in the shelf or in the library, I wouldn't have picked it up because of that cover.
Yeah.
And then realised that I've actually would have missed out on some really, really good writing.
Yeah.
Occasionally I have refused to read a book because of the cover. I got a review request a few years back, and it was a book about blood puddings, if people know what they are.
Yeah,
Well, no, I don't love it. And the cover was vile. It was like a big bloody black pudding, and it was just like no. And I thought I always felt really bad about that. I just couldn't read it because the cover was just made me feel physically sick when I looked at it. No. So I mean, no, I don't really, because I think I would pick it up and I would look at the blurb and I would look at the first few pages. Whereas I suppose I'm a wee bit judgy then, because if I seen something, I think, wow, that cover, and I would maybe skim over the blurb and then go and buy it. But if the cover makes me work a wee bit harder, then I'm going to do a wee bit more investigation before I part with my cash.
Yeah, I mean, your cover is brilliant. Your cover tells the story. Yeah, I love that.
I love that cover.
That, like, has all the feels, that cover. It's so dark, like the story, but it just tells the whole picture. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I must admit, I'm absolutely over the moon with that cover. I worked with Sharon from Red Dog on the cover, and he just completely got what I was looking for and what I wanted. And I do absolutely love it. And I still, every time I look at it, I see something different about it. So
yeah.
I think that'll always be my favourite cover. I keep on thinking, what am I going to do for book 2? Because that's like, I just can't have that cover for every single book, can I?
Yeah. I mean, I have the typical woman on the front, typical police procedural, but I love them. And I know I've seen in readers groups how people are like, oh, another woman in a coat. But that's how you know it's a brand. That's how you know it's a police procedural. And I think Dead Inside is probably my favorite cover because I love the background. It
Yeah.
totally sets the scene. And I do love Dead Perfect. I don't know if you
I
have
like
the
I
I
really
love
like
that.
Dead Perfect. It
Um,
reminds me of when I take Cooper a walk.
yes, I know, I know. And
Uh-huh.
I love Dead Secret. I don't have that book out yet, but I love the red and the vibrancy. And I know it's a red-coated woman, but it's a police procedural. That's
But
branding.
do you know what? It's a brand and it's marketing, and publishers know what sells.
Yes.
They know that if you walk into an airport or a supermarket or a shop, and you're the sort of person that only buys one or two books a year, you're going to be drawn to the books where you're right away. You're like, right, okay, that's historical fiction, that's crime, that's
Yes.
police procedural. So the publishers know that. So
Yeah.
so when people criticize, you're like, come on, guys, the publishers are in it to sell books. They're
Yep.
going to market, and that's what they do, and it works. So, and I love
Absolutely.
your covers.
I love them too. And to be fair, I've always been drawn to the red-coated women. I love Angie Marsden's books.
Yeah.
Gibney has them as well. I love police procedurals, and the minute I see a woman or a house in a eerie area, I know that is procedural. I want to read it, so it
Yeah.
works.
It does.
And my books are selling, so I can't really complain.
Yeah. It's been doing something right. It must be doing something right. So what you
not the content.
So your next book is out just a couple of weeks away.
April 23rd.
April 23rd, not far away. Just in time for lockdown ending. And what are book plans for this year if festivals and travel are allowed?
Yeah, if festivals and travel are allowed, I've already booked a hotel for Harrogate. I will go. Yay! And even if the festival is not going ahead, but I'm still able to travel, I'm gonna go. I'll use it as a writing retreat, and meet up with people if anybody else is going. Um, I hope, but I'm not sure. I hope Butte Noir is on because I'm desperate to go to Butte. I love it there, and I want to hang out with you some more and kind of take over your house for a bit, like I always do when I come. Play with Cooper, and Bloody Scotland. I've booked. Well, you're staying with me. I booked us a nice flat, so woo woo.
Yeah, we're going to Bloody Scotland, and
Yeah.
even if we're the only two people there in Stirling, we're going.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I'm part of a panel. It's not like a Comic-Con, but like a sci-fi con, but it's got a crime. Yeah, I'm part of it. Thanks to Samantha Lee Howe, who is published by One More Chapter as well. And she invited me to come because they have a section for crime writers. I can't remember where it is at the moment, but obviously I'll start advertising. I think that's in November.
Okay.
I think it's in November. So yes, that's so far. But obviously, if anything else comes up in between,
but we're both on. We're on the Blood Brothers Book Festival on the 12th
yes,
of June.
Yeah, we're on that online. Yeah. I think I've got another online thing coming up also in October with Staffordshire Libraries, thanks to Kim. But I'm free for events if anybody is looking.
the online, I know it's crazy. I was that's what I was saying last night. I was in Stonehaven. Tonight I'm across the UK. I don't know where I am on Tuesday. Wednesday I'm in London, and then on Thursday I'm doing a local book group as well. So the online stuff is really taking over, or taking off, not taking over, taking off.
Yeah. And I
It's
hope it continues once the lockdown finishes, because I think it's probably an untapped potential that we didn't realize we could use, and how we could come across to people who can't attend
yeah,
events. So I do hope that people still continue to do the online stuff, and book chats and book clubs and stuff like that, because I really do think it opens up the doors for you to meet people you might not have been able to meet, or even if
yeah.
you're a little anxious, or you're unsure about meeting people, going online to the Zoom events is great. It really is.
And I think, I think that probably would be the opportunity for a lot of sort of blended book festivals. So I think, they'll possibly do a mix for the next few years anyway.
Yeah.
But I would
Yeah.
I would definitely like to see that continue, because, for whatever reason where, somebody might not be able to afford to travel, or
Yeah.
they physically can't get there. Yeah, it's opening up a whole new world to folk. But, for anybody who is able to get to a book festival and feels a wee bit anxious about it, I would definitely say don't feel anxious about it. Book festivals are probably one of the places where I would have no qualms about going on my own, staying somewhere for a weekend on my own and popping in and out of festival. I think you get to know so many people. We're such a big but small community.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. I'm kind of the same as you. I think initially I probably I don't like going places on my own, but if I know I'm going to see people that I recognize, um, or even if I don't recognize people, the other thing I love is I can go and sit in a cafe and read a book without people thinking I'm a weirdo.
Yeah,
Like, oh, Billy No Mates, because there's other people sitting there, and you kind of
yeah,
get chatting to people going, oh, what are you reading now? Or are you going to this
yeah.
panel? Or, so
I know.
yeah, it is a great atmosphere. And I've met, like I said before, I met you, I've met
I know.
Sarah, Kim. My job in publishing came through attending festivals
Exactly.
and blogging. So, you know,
Mhm. So what are you reading just now then?
I'm currently reading, it's on my I shut it off. It's Peter James. I think it's Love You Dead.
Oh,
Is it Love
oh,
You Dead?
excellent.
Yeah, yeah. His publicist contacted me and asked me if I wanted a early arc, and I was like, "Oh,
Oh,
hell yeah!" So
I'm
yeah,
not jealous. I'm
so
not jealous.
I just started that today. But I also just finished Callie Taylor's Her Last Holiday. Oh my
Oh, was
God!
that good?
You know what? I admire Callie's writing style so much, because she
Yeah,
has such a wicked ability to turn a location into every bit of character in the story. And again, she's done it in Her Last Holiday. You
yeah,
need to read this book. I love Callie's books. So yeah,
yeah.
definitely.
She's a fantastic writer. She takes ordinary people in ordinary situations and turns them into something terrifying as well. That they just poke and prod at every single part of your brain.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What are you
definitely.
reading?
I'm reading.
Oh, I've got that on my Kindle, and I'm waiting for my signed copy to arrive.
Oh,
He's so
so
great, isn't he?
creepy.
Ugh, I
Uh-huh.
love Rob.
You
He's
know,
so great.
Rob might have the cheekiest, cutest, sweetest little smile and
Yeah.
giggle, but oh my God, his head is dark.
Yes.
His head is
Yes.
dark. I love it. I love it.
Absolutely.
So that's Blackstoke by Rob Parker for anybody that never seen that there.
Yeah.
Absolutely fantastic book. Just out this week.
Hmm.
My headphones keep falling off. Yeah, so that's what I'm reading.
I
Yeah,
recently
so
read Kate Simmons, A Ruined Girl. Oh my
oh,
God. Now that is what I loved about it is it has a probation officer in it. So it's very much the probation side of things, and someone's just been released from prison. But the book was just phenomenal. Psychological thriller, standalone. Definitely. I mean, I'm still thinking about it, and I finished it last week. Fantastic, fantastic book.
wow.
And one more, The Nurse by J.A. Corrigan. Wow.
Oh,
Yes. if you get a chance to read that, do it, do it, do it.
Okay.
Fantastic.
The Nurse. Psych thriller, is it?
Yeah, standalone psych thriller. You will love it. You will love it. It's very much kind of your type of writing, reading, so I think you'd love it.
Excellent.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Oh my goodness, Joe, if your books were released on audiobook, who would you want to narrate the books if you had the choice? Oh, I'm rubbish at people's names, but do you know who I would want, just because I love his voice? Who's the guy from Peaky Blinders? Cillian.
Oh,
Murphy?
yes. Yeah, I know who you're on about.
Oh my goodness. I listened to on YouTube, you can get one of the sleep stories, and he reads you a bedtime story. It's like 29 minutes long, and it's about Ireland. And I just listen to it every night just to hear his voice. So yeah, and that's a really shallow answer, Joe. Sorry, but that's just because of his voice.
I don't know who I would want to. I mean, my books are in audio, the first two, anyways, and they're doing other stuff. So I think there's something happening in the works in terms of the series in general. But yeah, I don't know. I kind of liked my narrator. I thought she was great. Rachel, I can't remember her name. That's so bad. But I thought she did a great job. I would find it hard myself to do any sort of things. And in my head, I don't even know what the characters sound like, because I write for that. I write so that people can kind of have their own ideas of looks, and because I'm not overly descriptive, and the same with the voice. I mean, for me, Lucy was Canadian, but she's not Canadian. She's from Staffordshire. So that just shows you, like, I'd cast someone in with a Canadian accent and be like, what the hell? I thought this book was set in the UK. Wow, the author's Canadian. So yeah,
I'm the same. I don't really have. I might have a vague picture of what my character looks like, but to me, all my characters sound like people that I know. That they sound like my neighbours. They sound like the people in the shop. They just sound like people I know. So I don't hear the voice of my characters when I hear the voice as in it could be my next door neighbour's voice, but so I don't hear a voice. So yeah, I suppose my answers to those sort of questions are always kind of shallow. It's like, oh, he's got a lovely voice. I would listen to him all night, reading the shopping list. So
yeah.
But yeah, so no, I don't know. Well, mine aren't on audio yet, but I don't know who I would have narrating. No, I can't listen to audiobooks. I really struggle.
Me too.
I really struggle to remember it. I've been asked to review a couple, and I'm like, oh, I can't. It's like, it's not the same experience for me.
No, I'm kind of the same as you. Sometimes I have them on in the background when I'm working, but honestly, I don't absorb the stories. So I generally don't listen to books that I'm reviewing. It might be stuff that had been on my Kindle for a while, or I just thought, oh, I want to check this out, and I've got a free audio code or something like that. But yeah, because I read so fast and I have my own pace, I find them really slow, and I just don't absorb it. I'm a visual reader, so I like to see what I'm reading so I can picture it. And when I'm listening, I don't have that same experience. Just not for me.
No, definitely not.
I see Joe has also asked. Let me just look.
As long as it's not about my dog's diarrhea.
No, dog/hubby. What do you find are the best and worst parts of the writing process, Sharon?
Oh, the best part for me is starting. So that initial, when you've got that idea and you think, the ideas are all popping into your head and you've got your characters and just getting that down on paper. So that starting point. The worst part for me is the middle the muddle in the middle, because that's the point where I sit and bang my head off my desk and say, what are you doing? Why do you think you can write? Go away and don't be so stupid, woman. Then just as I'm getting towards the end, as soon as I know for sure what the ending is, I just want it done. And it's a bit like a film. You know, once I know what's going to happen, I'm like, right, okay, are we nearly there yet? Are we nearly there yet? You know. So I don't particularly like that. But and then when it goes away and comes back like 6 months, a year later for your edits, I really enjoy that part because I haven't seen it for so long. So it's all new again. So that's their bit of a mishmash of worst and best bits for me.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same as you. I love that first initial spark of an idea, because I always know the beginning and I always know how I want it to end, because but not the ending of the initial story. My endings are always a lead into the next book. So I know where I want the direction to the story to go. And I love that bit. That's what gets me excited. And I love kind of getting all the ideas. Because I'm so chaotic, I just write what's in my head. So I tend to not get so kind of downtrodden, I guess. Ooh, that's a very downtrodden. I tend not to get so down about the middle stuff, because my middle stuff kind of comes as I'm writing, that I don't actually have a middle bit, because it could come at any point as I'm writing. I love coming up to the end, and then I'm really bad. I kind of just fob the ending off, because I know that I have to read it again to edit it. So I'll tighten it up then. I just kind of go, oh, blah, 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 the end. I know how it's going to end. Make sure this happens here. And then I kind of go, woo, the end, I finished. And then I go back and edit it. And like you again, I also love leaving the book, it going away, people reading it, like the beta readers and then my editor, and then coming back to it all over again and kind of going, oh yeah, because in that in-between stage while you're waiting, I'm sitting there going, oh my God, it's so crap. Everybody's going to hate it. Oh, it's awful. And then you get the feedback, and yeah, it's not perfect. I never expected it to be, but you get all that positive feedback as well, which kind of gives you that bit of a bump to go, right. Yeah, I'm back into it. I'm gonna, tighten this up. So, and I love publication day too, but I hate waiting and reading reviews. So, because it's so nerve-wracking. It's just that waiting for that first review, like, is it going to be good? Please let it be good. And when it is, great. When it's not, that's the thing that sticks in my head for the whole. So every other 5 and 4 star that come in, I'm always just remembering the first crap review. It's bad. I think all authors do that. We forget about, for every 1 or 2 bad reviews initially, there's 10 or 20 great reviews. And reviews aren't for us. They're for other readers. And so I think in the 2 years that I've been writing and reading reviews, I've kind of accepted that actually my book isn't going to be for everybody. And that's okay. That is totally okay, because other people love it. So
and I think that's probably one of my biggest sort of learning curves is when, and I contacted you. I'm like, oh my God, no, I got a 2-star review on Goodreads of all places, and Goodreads is vile. They just, Amazon, the critical reviews are a little bit kinder. And Goodreads, there's a certain breed of people in Goodreads that just like to rip you to shreds. But I remember, and I said to Sharon, and he said, he says, see once your book comes to me for editing, and then we put it out, it doesn't belong to you anymore. Just let it go. And I'm like, that is really true. So now I'm just like, well, it's not my book anymore. It belongs to the people that have parted with their hard-earned cash and bought it. So, their views are the ones that are... I'm not going to lie, it does. You do. You sit and you go back to those 2-star reviews, and you go through it, and you go through it with a fine tooth comb. But I think as well, I think I'm quite comfortable with people not enjoying my book. That book group last night was absolutely fantastic. There was a couple of folk there that said, I wouldn't say I enjoyed your book because it was too dark and the subject matter was too disturbing for me. But they were able to have this, we had this brilliant conversation about what they got from it, despite it not being a book that they would say, this is, it wouldn't be something that they would pick up, but they got so much from it. And for me, I'm like, well, that's, what more can you ask for? It's not somebody saying, oh, your book's boring, you're a rubbish writer. Those sort of negatives hurt a bit, but when somebody's constructive and can see what they can get from something, then that's a lot easier.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
Funniest
or strangest?
1 star.
I don't really have any. I'm not lucky enough to have as many reviews. I don't mean as many 1-star reviews. I just
Many
mean
as me.
I started saying that and I thought, this is
I don't
gonna
have
be
as many as Noelle.
No,
You should ask her that
many.
question.
I don't have as many reviews. I think that there was a really weird one the other day on Goodreads. Somebody had marked it a 3-star, and then in their comment wrote "brilliant book, 5 stars," and I'm like, no, we'll put the 5 stars up there then. So yeah. But I've not reached those heady heights of thousands of reviews yet. So
yeah, well, I've had a few 1-star reviews, and I think the one that always sticks in my mind was for Dead Inside, where this man said, and I know it was a man because of his name, so I'm not just picking on men, but he said that it was rubbish because there was no way that a probation officer would ever find herself in a situation where she was abused by a partner. And clearly I was like a man hater or something. And I just thought, well, actually, you've just proven why I wanted to write that story, because I was a probation officer. I had spent 13 years in a horrible abusive relationship. So go and educate yourself, man. 1 star to you.
So sometimes I'd love to do a review of the reviews.
Yeah,
I'd love, but
I
you
like
never,
people buying my books.
Yeah. Do not respond to reviews. But I suppose the most irritating ones are the ones where they get a 1-star. Did not download to my Kindle. It arrived damaged. I did not order this book.
Yes. Or even, this inflatable bed was great. Okay, but how was the book?
Or I've just bought this book, but I haven't read it yet. 1 star. You're like, okay.
Yeah.
So crazy times, but oh my goodness.
All good fun. I think
Lindsay's went away and left us.
She left us. Well, we've got 2 minutes left.
She's back. She's back.
I listened to you chatting. I just thought, just let them, chat.
Just let them let them go. Yeah.
Actually, it's quite inspiring to you guys speak, because obviously, you obviously, no offense to a lot of authors, obviously they have, decided they want to be an author, but then going from being a blogger to being an author, seeing 2 sides of like the coin is quite inspirational, but it's quite interesting, because obviously what it's like from our side and how hard it is to like give like honest reviews that people can't turn around and say, well, that your friends kind of say you've known them for quite a few years, you become good friends with them, and then obviously people are like, is she really just paying tribute to her friend? it's not an honest review, or and you just kind of think, well, I'm being an author, because I know there's some bloggers that would love to do it, and there's others like myself that think, I really do have it could be a plan that you like. Just I don't know how I would go about it. And it is really quite interesting hearing you banter off each other, because obviously I do know that you know each other for a long time, and obviously I'm assuming that Noelle's helped Sharon, last year when you were on, obviously talking in the new and emerging talent, how you help each other kind of style, and it is quite inspirational to know that there can be I've always found that everybody helps each other, and sort of like
it's such a supportive environment.
yeah.
Everybody, all the authors, whether they're authors that are, that up there at the top of their game, selling millions of books, or people just starting out. Everybody's supportive of you. Nobody wants to see you fail. People are there backing you all the way. So I don't think I could have done it without knowing that you didn't have a whole room of people with their knives at your back, thinking, "Oh, she's bringing out a book. She's bringing out a book." People are like, "Yeah, go you do it." So. Yeah,
absolutely.
I just wanted to ask, why did you guys decide to go for crime fiction? I don't know if you covered it. I don't think you did, but what was it draw you to crime fiction? Because I know that Noelle was crime book junkie, so I'm assuming you were just a crime book blogger, and Sharon, you were chapter in my life. So I'm not sure. Did you ever cover anything that was non-crime, or you just like?
No. I don't even know why it was called Chapter in My Life. I think when I started my blog, I had this idea that people would be really interested in different parts of my life, and that I would write. I must have been going through one of those self-indulgent phases. That I was going to write these sort of social commentary pieces, and it just lay there, and I'd done nothing with it. And then I started doing the book reviews. So yeah, it's always been crime fiction for me, and just because I've always read crime fiction, even from being little. I was a kid that had the doll hospital whose dolls went in mutilated by me and came out even more mutilated. So yeah.
And just
Noelle.
Noelle, why is it crime book? Well, I'm assuming that you were just like a big crime book fan, and just thought crime book just kind of like.
Yeah, I mean, I started reading true crime when I was about 11, and horror even before that. Then I went into crime fiction, and of course, my whole career, my university degrees are all crime related in terms of the degrees I took. I have a master's in criminology. Then I went into work in probation, but I've read crime fiction throughout that whole period, and it's like thrillers and anything to do with crime. So if there's a crime involved in it, not so much cozy crime. I read a little bit of cozy crime, but not very much. I like the darker side and the procedurals and some spy thrillers and stuff like that. So yeah, and Crime Book Junkie just fit the bill for me.
Yeah. No, it's just because I've always had that question as well. They're like, they see they've been a murder, and they're like, that's such a cool one. And I'm like, all right, okay. Like, why are you called that? And I was like, well, different murders, obviously Glasgow, Scotland, and then obviously my mum and dad love, hence the DVDs. This is their joke, because this is my old room. It's now the computer room. This is all like American and English kind of TV series. We've got Death in Paradise, Father Brown. We've got Line of Duty. We've got some like Broadchurch, Traces,
Yeah.
stuff like that. That is just there. I think it's funny doing that because my mum and dad love kind of TV shows. They're just not big readers. They're in the middle of watching a binge section of Magnum PI on Sky at the moment. So they love all the TV shows, but they just don't read. So hence there's been murders as a cheeky little tribute to them as well, because they love Taggart. That's the first one.
Oh, I love
excellent,
Taggart.
yeah.
But Taggart was obviously the TV show, and then reading between the lines is just
In a murder.
when you're reading, you can read between the lines and I can take one part of the book, and somebody else can take another way. So that's the reason between mine. People are always like, why did you do this? And what? Some of them are just like Alison's reviews or Kaylee's, book reviews. And I'm like, sometimes it's nice you can kind of hide behind it, and people are like, oh, right, okay, you're the person behind it. And I'm like, yep, yes.
Yeah.
So thank you very much, ladies. It's been such a joy to hear your stories and your backgrounds as well. I always enjoy like being at festivals like with Noelle and Sharon were there, because you just always feel like you have a laugh. A couple of years ago, I met
entertaining everyone.
they were standing outside giggling, and I'm just coming to bloody Scotland, but I'd come from Glasgow via Edinburgh after a concert that I'd completely forgot when I'd organised my friend's birthday that I was on the Saturday, and I was like, crap, I couldn't let them down in bloody Scotland, so I just jump on a train from my friend's house to Edinburgh, and then over to Sutherland, and I was like,
that was the year. Did we meet you? We met you outside Alan Jones done his pop-up bar for Block.
Yeah,
I remember you coming. Yeah.
Oh Jesus.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was just like one of those things, and you just like, you're like tattered, and you've got a whole of like things to go, and then you just see you two giggling and laughing, you're like, yeah. It's just like,
oh, dear.
I do. I miss it.
I miss it too.
Yeah, it's nice to be able to at least do something, but you do miss the just having the weird conversations with authors outside, and people are standing, fans are standing there watching you, thinking, are you just having a conversation with Ian Rankin or James Oswald? I've had that a few times, and I'm like, yeah, to me now, they're not fangirl standing waiting to get the sign and stuff like that. Oh, what's wrong with them? That kind of thing. It's now, obviously, you've known them for a few years, appeared on the blogs. Some of them I even know their wives' names. It's like, and you're like, you're like, oh, people are like so excited to see them, and you're like, oh yeah, you're just chatting with the family members, and it's weird, but it's one of those things. So thank you so much. So tomorrow.
No, thank you, Lindsay.
Thank you. Tomorrow is 12 to 1 is Chris Longmuir and Caroline Dunford. Then 3 to 4 is Diane Saxon and Mary Grant. 6 to 10 is Alan Martin, and it's now Kelly. Unfortunately, Peter Ritchie has had to pull out due to ill. I think it's ill health, or somebody is ill in his family, and he's not going to be able to make it, which is a shame. So. Send all our best wishes to Peter Ritchie and his family. And then 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock is Carol Ramsey, Jackie McLean, and MG Newman, who is used to be Mark Newman. So thank you so much, ladies, and have a lovely rest of the evening. And then I'm just going.